Before the start of every new school year, like many of you, I sit down and make a list of some of the goals I want my kids to learn by the end of the year. Whether it's their multiplication tables or how to write a 3-paragraph essay or whatever it is. But there are so many other things I want them to learn that aren't quantifiable. There's nothing I can really go through a checklist and to see whether or not they accomplished it. But they are goals that really guide our school year. They guide our days, and our weeks, and longer. I also want to go ahead and apologize for my voice, and you'll probably see me drinking some water. Allergies are hitting me hard, and I've not taped in about a week. Keep thinking that one of these days it'll stop, but not yet. Several years ago, I ran across an article on NPR that really got me thinking about these type of goals. And in it, there was a reporter who was in an Eastern country. I think he was visiting Japan, I think. I'll have this article linked below. And he was talking about that the differences in the way the classrooms in America and in whatever this other country was handle kids struggling with something they don't know. And there was a student who had a math problem that he didn't know how to do. And the teacher sent him up to the board for the class to work on it while the other kids were working. And the reporter was talking about how, kind of anxious he was getting, and the reporter was getting, watching this kid struggle. But, the kid was kind of doing fine with it. And every few minutes, the teacher would ask the kids who were working at their desks how the student was doing, whether he was on the right track, whether his answer was right, and they would give feedback. Kid worked through the whole class period on it, and he finally got the answer right. And when he did, the class congratulated him, applauded him, whatever. And he was talking about it wasn't seen as a negative that the kid didn't know the answer or how to solve it. He was being encouraged to persevere through it. And when I read this article, it really got me thinking about what type of things like that do I want my kids to learn, which then spun off a few other ones, and that's what I'm going to share today. Number 1, I want the kids to learn to be able to say they don't know when someone asks a question, and for them not to see it as a negative. So many times I see people who will make up answers or deflect or refuse to answer or whatever it is, a question, because the answer is, I don't know, and they don't want to admit that. I want my kids to be able to say, I don't know. Let's find the answer. Or, I don't know. Can you tell me the answer? And I don't want them to see it as anything but an opportunity to learn something they didn't know. Number 2, relationships matter more than academics. Now, this is not to say that we just stop our day if a neighborhood kid comes to the door to play. That's not what I mean. What I do mean, though, is that if someone's sick, we're going to put down our stuff and we're going to do what we can, go run an errand for them or take them a meal, whatever. In our immediate family, if someone's having a really hard day, maybe the best thing for us is to put away our academics, cuddle up on the couch all together and watch a documentary. I want them to know that not only do relationships matter more than academics, but it's okay to put down what you're doing to help someone who needs your help. Number 3, I want my kids to learn how to deal with things that frustrate them in their schoolwork. And we take this 2 different ways. One way is that sometimes it's best to put something aside and come back to it. Sometimes we have to push through it. And learning which way to deal with it is something that I want my kids to be able to identify, and then I want them to be able to handle it, each path appropriately. Several years ago, I learned that if you've been working on a math problem and it's not working and you're just having a frustrating time with it, if you set it aside, your brain continues to work on it even when you're not actively doing it. So that's why, sometimes if you've searched for something and you can't find it, and then an hour later, all of a sudden you remember where it is. That's because your brain has been working on it that whole time. So I want my kids to know that sometimes if you have really put in effort on a problem and you're just frustrated, the best thing to do is close it up, put it aside, go on to something else. You can always come back to it. The other path, though, is that I want them to learn that sometimes you really need to learn to work through frustration. I found that this is best accomplished when they hit a wall quickly, because often then, if they haven't struggled with it much, then that's a good opportunity, at least for my oldest. My middle one, I don't know yet. But it's a good opportunity for her to learn to work through that frustration. And I also want them, either path, I want them to also learn the habits of identifying it, learning to take a quick little break. Even if you're going to struggle through it, maybe you just need to go drink a water and come back and have a little fresher mind about it. That kind of thing. So, number 3, learn how to handle frustrating work. Number 4 is to learn how to evaluate sources. Not sure I really need to elaborate on that much on my reasoning behind it, but I do want my kids to be able to evaluate them. And when they have conflicting information they've obtained from different sources, learn how to evaluate which resource might be more trustworthy, learning how to go to another resource and see what they can find out from other ones. My oldest and my youngest really love to watch the kind of, I don't want to say more extreme videos on YouTube, but things like 10 craziest facts about something or other, or that type of thing. And they'll tell me something like, I'm not sure that's true. That's a great opportunity to help them evaluate that and teach them that not everything that is on YouTube is accurate and true, that sort of thing. And a corollary to number 1, I want my kids to learn how to ask for help without it being seen as a negative. I don't need to tell you that a lot of people, myself included, struggle with asking for help. There's a lot of reasons why and whatever, but I don't want my kids to have that. So when they ask for help, even if it's something that we've been over 1,000 times or I feel like they should know it by now, I try really hard not to get frustrated. Now, I may not give them the help that they wanted. It may be that I ask them some questions that help them to jog their memory or to guide them to the right answer or guide them where to find the answer. But I don't want them to ever be afraid to ask me for help, so that hopefully that will translate into just a view of help not being a negative thing for later in life. As a corollary to learning to work through frustration, I want my kids to learn how to work efficiently. This is something I struggle with mightily. With housework, whatever it is, I struggle with it. And it's taken me a lot of time to even learn how to work somewhat efficiently. We do this in a few ways. One, learning to sometimes set aside or whatever is frustrating us. Learning to be able to recognize when you might need a break. As long as the breaks aren't long, I let my kids get up between subjects. They can go downstairs and get a drink of water. If they want to take a quick scooter ride around the cul-de-sac, run out back in the backyard for a few minutes, whatever it is, I want my kids to learn when they need a break and take an appropriate one and then come back and work. I also do this by teaching them how best to schedule their days. With my daughter, when she was younger, particularly, I would list all her subjects on her weekly chart, and I listed them in order of difficulty. But so like the top couple lines would be the most difficult, and that would be in one color. Then the next block of 2 or 3 things that were not as difficult, but more difficult than the bottom set would be in another color. And then her easiest things would be in another set of colors. And so our day was, we would start at the top, she would pick one of those subjects, then the next one, then the next one, and when we got to the bottom, she'd take a short little break. Then we'd start again. And it was teaching for her that she needed to start with the most difficult thing and then work her way down. She has carried, she's in 7th grade now, so she really schedules her day herself. But she has carried over that, a similar rhythm now, and really found one that works for her. And the last one is that I want them to know that sometimes learning is fun, and often it is. But sometimes you just have to trudge, whatever the word is, through the stuff that's not fun. Learning to write your letters may not be fun for every child. Learning your multiplication tables may not be fun for every child. Sometimes going through the things that you don't like to do will lead to being able to doing something you like more later on. But sometimes it's not going to. But it's still something you have to learn how to do. And so I want them to learn that. I don't want them to think that everything has to be fun, and that if something's not fun, it's not worth doing. No, sometimes it is. Sometimes you just have to put away the laundry, which is a chore I hate the most. Sometimes you just have to. Sometimes life just isn't fun. But we have to do it in order to get through it. So there are my 7 long-term goals that I want my kids to learn and master before they head off into adulthood. Thanks for watching.